one part of the report that really stands out is this one. It says that some of these uncharacterized UAPs appear to have demonstrated unusual flight characteristics or performance capabilities and require further analysis. So, is it advanced U.S. technology? Is it advanced technology from a foreign adversary like perhaps China or Russia? Or is it extraterrestrial in origin or something else entirely? We just don't know. And the U.S. government says that it doesn't know either, or at least it will not say so publicly in this unclassified report.
Kristen Fisher, my perspective is that the U.S. government knows we're not alone, and they will not say so publicly, at least not yet. However, a sufficient number of U.S. government officials, ex and current, have conveyed, whether directly or indirectly, that we are not alone, to the point of absurdity. Even in the article that started this whole UFO fever off, that's been going on for 5 years now, made this very claim explicitly. From the genesis, this claim has been made. Here's the quote by Luis Elizondo, a legitimate government insider, from the December 16th, 2017 New York Times article. In the interview, Mr. Elizondo said he and his government colleagues had determined that the phenomena they had studied did not seem to originate from any country. That fact is not something any government or institution should classify in order to keep secret from the people, he said. So the question is, when is the government going to disclose this truth in an official, unambiguous way? Because if we've been listening to current and ex-government officials, and we assess they know what they are talking about, then we already know we're not alone in this universe or in this biosphere. In March of 2021, former Director of National Intelligence, and by the way, the Director of National Intelligence is the executive head of the United States intelligence community. It's kind of a big deal. I don't know if it gets any higher than that in terms of access to data. But he said, and that's John Ratcliffe, that satellite imagery has been taken of UAP, that UAP engage in actions that are difficult to explain with movements that are hard to replicate, that we simply don't have the technology to do, and that UAP are traveling at speeds exceeding the sound barrier without a sonic boom. He also stated that the data collected on UAP is not just from, say, a satellite or a pilot or some intelligence collection, but usually we have multiple sensors that are picking up these things. So I think part of the problem right now is nobody is defining what kind of techno-signatures would be required to document for us to confidently assess we are not alone in the universe. This is a question that someone needs to ask the DoD pronto. Otherwise, I'm concerned that they could document something coming in and out of our oceans, in and out of our atmosphere, and doing things repeatedly and over decades, of which there's nothing in our U.S. military inventory that can replicate those maneuvers, and they'll still maintain we have no evidence of alien visitation, because there's always that chance, even if it's 0.001, that another nation has leapfrogged us to the point of making all our military equipment in our inventory useless. And we're just not aware that they've made this leapfrog over the United States of America. Yeah, that sounds probable. Not. And ladies and gentlemen, to me, this is complete and utter crapola. On January 15th, on the heels of the release of the UFO report, which was released in January 12th, John Ratcliffe, who we were just discussing, former Director of National Intelligence, doubled down on his analysis of UAP capabilities that he shared back in March of 2021.
And I know everyone gets caught up on alien life and all of that, but my concern as the Director of National Intelligence was, if anyone, foreign adversary, regardless of how you define foreign adversary, have technologies that the United States don't have, we need to find out more about that. And what we found that was Navy pilots and Air Force pilots were, discouraged from reporting that. They thought that it would impair their careers. We need to have information if there are technologies out there, and very clearly, as this most recent report reveals, the sightings are increasing, which is a good thing because that means we're getting more honest reporting from our Navy and Air Force pilots. But it gives us more information. We need to find out when there are, and there very clearly are now, hundreds of unexplained sightings, meaning that there's no natural phenomenon involved, there's no visual disturbance, it's not clutter or debris or birds or anything else, but objects that demonstrate technologies that seem to defy the law of physics and capabilities that we don't have as the world's superpower. Our role in the federal government is to provide for the common defense, and we can't do that if someone else has technologies that are better than we have.
And by better, if we listen to what you have stated in the past, Mr. Ratcliffe, other members of the U.S. government, current and ex, and military witnesses of UAP, we're talking exponentially better, to the point of making the inventory of the United States military irrelevant. So when they are exposed to this type of discussion, are curious about whether or not we're alone or not, you shouldn't be surprised. Because at a certain point, when technology is being discussed that is out of this world, if you will, people are going to start leaning toward the idea that there's a probability we're dealing with non-human intelligence, as opposed to China and Russia having left us in the dust technologically, to say the least.
We need to restore confidence in our institutions, and I think transparency and some truth-telling and treating us like adults and citizens who are in charge of our government as opposed to servants.
Well, that's true.
Would work.
So, John, treat us like an adult here. You've seen the intel. It's January 15th in the year 2023. Are aliens real?
Good.
Well, I can't talk to you about, any potential alien life. So I'll just leave it at that.
There you go. What does that answer say?
I don't know.
I don't know.
What in the carnation? Is this the Twilight Zone? Back into my little chair. Now, this is really weird, fam. Why was he getting all awkward in responding to that question? Why was he stuttering and saying he can't talk about that? Why not just say no or yes? But instead it's, well, I can't talk about that. That's a little bizarre to me. I don't know what to make of it. This whole past 5 years has been loony. And I truly believe it's because there's a real cover-up and it's unraveling. And it will be awkward at times because it's absolutely bizarre. The U.S. government has lied to the American people, to the world, to their countrymen, to their fellow human being about their place in the universe, misled the public. Other countries, I believe, as crazy as it seems, have done the same more or less by not sharing the data they've collected on this mysterious presence. Journalist Ross Coulthart also found this bizarre. He wrote, "Why can't the U.S. government's former director of national intelligence answer a simple question about whether the UAP evidence he's seen shows existence of a non-human intelligence? What is the block to allowing even discussion of this highly classified evidence? Why the gag?" Christopher Sharp of Liberation Times wrote the following article on January 15th titled, "Former Director of National Intelligence Undermines Efforts to Downplay Unusual UFO Cases, claiming that some demonstrate technologies that seem to defy the law of physics." And he's referencing a portion of the interview I just showed you. Now to quote his article. "Although the report does use the term foreign, this is only in reference to foreign governments, although non-state actors are also referenced as possible operators of UAP. However, Liberation Times understands that Ratcliffe, former DNI Ratcliffe that we were just talking about, is aware that some UAP are attributable to a non-human intelligence. Liberation Times understands from sources that senior Pentagon and intelligence officials within the U.S. government are now not only aware that some UAP are of non-human origin, but have also uncovered information regarding alleged illegal and secretive UAP retrieval and reverse engineering programs. As previously reported by Liberation Times, discussions regarding the topic of crash retrievals and reverse engineering programs have taken place since last year, before the Senate's Intelligence Committee's published draft UAP whistleblower language within Intelligence Authorization Act legislation. The committee drafted the language after speaking with whistleblowers who provided verifiable information about such programs. Since then, more whistleblowers have come forward to testify with congressional committees in private, and momentum is building. Liberation Times understands from sources that the AARO's director, Dr. Kirkpatrick, has and continues to meet with government employees and defense contractors who have provided verifiable information about alleged crash retrieval and reverse engineering programs. And in that light, on January 13th, StandForBetter.org tweeted, "I can confirm from a source directly involved with the UAP UFO disclosure effort in Washington that this month several people are testifying in a skiff with DoD AARO Director Dr. Sean Kirkpatrick regarding historical UFO crash retrieval programs." And interestingly, Tom DeLong retweets it with a little smiley face and sunglasses. And we can laugh about him being a rock star, but he definitely does have connections. In the last sentence of Chris Mellon's latest article titled "Key Takeaways from 2023 ODNI UAP Report," he states, "Indeed, I've spoken with several credible people who claim the U.S. has evidence of alien technology in its possession. These are indeed exciting times. The house of cards is falling, baby." Why are you still looking at me? The following clip is from January 14th, where sitting House of Representative Tim Burchett was interviewed on News Nation.
You know, we've been covering this thing up since the 40s, since Roswell or before then, I believe. I don't trust government. There's an arrogance about it. And I think the American public can handle it, and they need to release everything. And that includes if they, in fact, do have a craft, which I believe at some point we have obtained some materials that are not of this world that are being studied by different members of industry, I've been told.
And here's my commentary on Tim Burchett from that statement and many, many others that he's been doing over the years, explicitly calling out the U.S. government for a UFO cover-up. Just a reminder that a sitting member of the House of Representatives has been stating repeatedly and for years now that there is a UFO cover-up. The fact that the U.S. government seems incapable of effectively squashing the validity of his rhetoric tells me they can't. Going with the theme of crash retrievals, in January 17th on the Tucker Carlson show, he discussed an alleged crash that happened in 1945 that was covered in a book titled Trinity, authored by Jacques Vallée and Paola Harris. And indeed, I will leave a link to that book in the description, which will be an Amazon affiliate link. So if you click it and buy something, I'll get a small commission. I haven't read the book yet, but I absolutely intend to do so. Here's the clip.
So history has recorded the first big UFO sighting in the United States is 1947 in Roswell, New Mexico, very famously right outside Roswell. But actually, there was, in some sense, a bigger and more significant event sighting 2 years before, also in New Mexico, at exactly the moment the U.S. government was detonating the first atomic weapon, shortly thereafter used in Japan. And witnesses on the ground saw some kind of object shaped like an avocado, they said, crash land. It was inspected by a lot of locals. There were beings inside, they said, and it was carted away by the U.S. government. Now, people don't want to be called crazy, so no one said too much about it for quite some years, but people within the U.S. government believe it's true, and they believe it so strongly that now, as of this week, the Defense Department's annual spending bill will require, as per Congress, the Pentagon to go back and investigate what really happened.
Now, here's a quote from Dean Johnson's article where he talks about the recent legislation. I'll link to it below, but it ties into what Tucker was just discussing. And here's a quote. "In the final bill, the scope of the historical record report has, if anything, been broadened now to include the historical record of the United States government relating to unidentified anomalous phenomena going back to January 1st, 1945. Why January 1st, 1945? My guess is because there are some people within Congress that want to ensure that in case the Trinity case actually occurred, that it is incorporated into the historical record report that they've requested. And as I understand it, the U.S. government has 18 months to fulfill that. More recently, the New York Times covered this UFO alleged crash on January 13th in an article titled, "Did Aliens Land on Earth in 1945? A Defense Bill Seeks Answers." The Defense Department's annual spending bill requires it to review UFO sightings dating to 1945, the year some believe an object from space crashed in the New Mexico desert. Here's a citation. An amendment tucked into this year's $858 billion National Defense Authorization Act, which funds the Defense Department's annual operating budget, requires that the department to review historical documents related to unidentified aerial phenomena, government lingo for UFOs, dating to 1945. That is the year that, according to one account, a large avocado-shaped object struck a communication tower in a patch of New Mexico desert, now known as the Trinity Site, where the world's first atomic bomb was detonated that July. Experts said the bill, which President Biden signed into law in December, could be a game changer for studying unidentified phenomena. Quote, "The American public can reasonably expect to get some answers to questions that have been burning in the minds of millions of Americans for many years," said Christopher Mellon, a former Deputy Assistant Secretary of Defense for Intelligence. Quote, "If nothing else, this should either clear up something that's been a cloud hanging over the Air Force and Department of Defense for decades, or it might lead in another direction, which could be truly incredible. There's a lot at stake." After tracking this for 5 years closely, and studying UAP prior to the December 16th, 2017 New York Times article, but more intensively post it, I sincerely assess that we will learn that we are not alone and that there has been a cover-up. And it has been going in this direction for 5 years, and it has not imploded. And the easiest way to have made it implode was simply to debunk on an official level any of the 3 UFO event series that got this all started via the UFO videos that came out from the Pentagon and the witness testimony that accompanied it. The fact that the U.S. government has not debunked those, in my opinion, means they simply cannot. The fact that we've had government officials, ex and current, military witnesses, ex and current, all aligning in the rhetoric that there are technological machines out there far surpassing anything within any military inventory in the world, tells you something ain't right in Kansas, my friend. Here's a recent tweet from Representative Gallagher, member of Congress, that was tweeted on January 13th. Representative Gallagher's statement following the release of a congressionally mandated unclassified report on unidentified aerial phenomena, UAPs. And this is his quote. "The DNI's most recent UAP report reinforces what we already know, that we must figure out what our military aviators are observing in our airspace. The whistleblower protections recently passed into law are an essential step forward to solving this decades-long mystery and will ensure that those entrusted with defending America from potential threats have all the required information, historical context, and scientific resources to do so." Believe it or not, there's a lot more information to share, of which I haven't even touched on, but we're going to keep it where it is now, and I'm going to play the disclosure flute for your soul. But expect another update relatively soon with more information. I'm busting my butt to keep you up to date on the disclosure process in the most concise and informative way that I can muster, because that's what we do here at the Post-Disclosure World YouTube channel. Do not forget to subscribe. And if you'd like to support this channel, you can check out my merch shop where I sell t-shirts. You could become a patron. You could become a YouTube member. You could give me a one-time donation. Those potentialities can be explored in the description box below, or you can just slap a like on this bad boy and I'll appreciate it so much. You're still watching, aren't you? I love it. So, in the description, in the comment box below, I would love, if you're still watching, to write Enigma. Write the word Enigma so that I know you got to this point. And I will see you in the next episode. Another one in the bag. Special thanks to all patrons, YouTube members, those that have bought merch, those that have given me a one-time donation. I couldn't do without you. Thank you so much. See you in the next episode.